I'm proud to present one of Israel's leading research institutes. Since its founding in 1982, the Taub Center has been working to shed light on the critical socio-economic challenges facing Israel, providing policymakers with important research-based insight and offering a set of policy alternatives for addressing the country's challenges. The Taub Center's professionalism and unique apolitical and independent status make it a valued, credible source. Prominent policymakers from across the political spectrum frequently cite Taub Center research findings and seek consultations with its experts. In addition to connecting with policymakers, Taub Center experts brief influential non-profit organisations, civil society leaders, students, foundations, Jewish federations, and others to ensure that fieldwork and philanthropy are grounded in a solid understanding of Israel's current challenges and opportunities, enabling an effective and impactful response from the field. During this most challenging year, the Taub Center has quickly mobilised to provide insight on the core issues the pandemic has brought to the forefront, while also maintaining focus on ongoing issues that we will face on the day after. Today's conference is an example of this long-term focus, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the conference and find it valuable and informative. I'm happy to introduce Mr. Jay Sandak, a nephew of Herbert Singer, one of the founders of the Taub Center. Jay serves as president of the Stamford, Connecticut-based Herbert and Nell Singer Foundation. Since its inception in 2011, the Herbert M. Singer Annual International Policy Conference has been generously supported and made possible by the Herbert and Nell Singer Foundation, and we are so grateful for the Foundation's ongoing support of the Taub Center. Jay, thank you for joining us at what is an extremely late hour for you. We are so happy to have you with us.
Good morning from Stamford, Connecticut. I have the honor and privilege of welcoming you to the 2020 Herbert M. Singer International Policy Conference, sponsored by the Taub Center for Social Policy in Jerusalem, Israel. As president of the Herbert and Nell Singer Foundation, I have enjoyed offering welcoming words on behalf of the foundation that sponsors this series at almost every one of the conferences since they began in 2011. Usually I travel to Jerusalem for the occasion, but this year, along with the rest of you, due to the travel restrictions with the COVID virus, we're all having to participate virtually. This conference was originally initiated to honor the legacy of Herbert N. Singer, who was one of the founders of the Taub Center and was my uncle. The conference embodies the work of my uncle during his lifetime. He believed that by listening and sharing, the world would be a better place. Over the years, this conference series has focused on such diverse topics such as education, public health, economic inequities, poverty, and changing labor markets. This year's focus on Israel's unique demography will most certainly add to the body of knowledge that will strengthen our understanding of the forces that drive social policy in Israel and beyond. So please sit back in whatever time zone you're located and be prepared for an exciting couple of hours of listening and sharing. Welcome and thank you for attending.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Helen. We're so grateful to both of you for your leadership, and thank you for joining us today from the US and from Australia. My name is Suzie Patt Benvenisti, and I'm the Director General of the Taub Center for Social Policy Studies in Israel. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Taub Center's 10th annual Herbert M. Singer Conference, this year on the topic of Israel's unique demography, implications, and planning for the future. The conference will be conducted in Hebrew and English with simultaneous translation and broadcast live on our Facebook pages. If you're joining through Zoom, you can watch the conference in the language being used by the speakers or click on the interpretation button for simultaneous translation to either English or Hebrew. If you are watching on Facebook, you can watch the full conference in English or in Hebrew on each of our Facebook pages. On each of the pages, there will be a link to the other page in the case that you would like to watch a lecture in its original language rather than through the simultaneous translation. I will now briefly switch to Hebrew and then continue my remarks in English. בוקר טוב ושלום לכולם. שמי סוזי פט בנבניסטי ואני המנכ"לית של מרכז טאוב. אנחנו שמחים לארח אתכם בכנס השנתי העשירי של מרכז טאוב על שם הרברט סינגר. השנה הכנס יעסוק בנושא הרכב האוכלוסייה הייחודי בישראל, השלכות ואסטרטגיה לעתיד. הכנס יתנהל בעברית ובאנגלית וישודר בשתי השפות בעמודי הפייסבוק של מרכז טאוב, כך שכל אחד יכול לבחור באיזו שפה לצפות. במידה ותרצו להחליף בין שפות בזום, ניתן ללחוץ על הכפתור Interpretation, על מנת לעבור לשפה השנייה. כמו כן, בפייסבוק ניתן לעבור בין העמוד העברית לבין העמוד האנגלית, במידה ותרצו לראות את ההרצאות הראשונות באנגלית במקום בתרגום סימולטני לעברית. המושב הראשון יתקיים בשפה האנגלית, ועל כן אמשיך את דבריי באנגלית. In the interest of time and getting straight to the issues and speakers, we will keep our introductions of speakers very brief throughout the day, but you can access the complete bios on our website, taubcenter.org.il. This year, we have a special conference hashtag, which appears on the main conference slide, hashtag Taub Conference 2020. Please use this hashtag on any posts or pictures you put on social media about the conference, and you can use it as a way to engage with the conference organizers and respond to speakers' presentations. Again, that's hashtag Taub Conference 2020. For those who are watching the live stream of the event, send your questions with the hashtag, and we'll leave some time during Q&A to address them. This year, our conference focuses on Israel's unique age structure and the implications of this age structure for our long-term planning in the realms of education, the economy and labor market, and health. With its high overall population growth, high fertility, and rapidly aging population, Israel is an outlier among developed countries. What implications does today's high fertility rate have for the education system in the near and medium term? What kind of planning is necessary to grapple with a large influx of young adults into higher education in the labor market? To what degree is our health system equipped to deal with a growing elderly population? Today's conference will focus on all of these questions and many more. Our two guests from abroad will provide a general introduction to / survey of the way that age structure is discussed in demography and how Israel's age structure in some crucial ways deviates from the developed country standard. The later sessions with panelists drawn from academia, government ministries, and the field will focus on the impact of Israel's unique population structure on education from birth to age 25, on its economy and labor market, focusing on ages 25 to 65, and on the health system specifically for those aged 65 and up. By the end of the day, we expect that the conference will provide participants with a better understanding of the importance of age structure and an understanding of how several relevant government ministries are planning to address these issues, as well as additional issues they may need to take into account as we plan for the coming 20 or so years in each of these areas. We look forward to hearing from you throughout the day. Time for questions and answers will be allotted at the end of every panel. If you have questions you would like to ask, please type them into the chat or Q&A boxes, and we will read your questions to our speakers. Before we dive in, I'd also like to share a word about the sponsor of today's conference. Since its inception in 2011, the Herbert Singer International Policy Conference has been generously supported and made possible by the Herbert and Nell Singer Foundation. We want to say thank you to Jay Sandak and the Singer Foundation and express our appreciation for the opportunity to work with Jay and with the foundation for so many years. Finally, we are very excited to launch our newest Data Point podcast episode, which is being released in conjunction with today's conference. This new episode is called Milk, Honey, and Loads of Kids. The episode looks at why Israelis have so many children and what the implications of this are for Israeli society and policy. In all of our Data Point episodes, we try to examine broad Israeli trends while drilling down to the individual or community level. In this episode, we hear from a woman named Tamar Chavshush about her experiences as a secular Israeli mother who works in high tech and also has 5 children born over the span of just 7.5 years. By putting Tamar's personal story in conversation with the macro trends discussed by Professors Alex Weinreb and Herb Smith, who we will hear from momentarily, the episode takes a fascinating dive into some of what's behind Israel's exceptional fertility trends. This episode is the first in our Israel 2040 podcast series, all sponsored by the Singer Foundation, in which we will be looking at a number of socioeconomic trends that will shape the way Israel looks in the coming decades. The first episode of the series is in English, and the subsequent episodes will be in Hebrew and will be released in the coming months. And now I'm happy to introduce Professor Alex Weinreb, Research Director at the Taub Center. Alex is a professor in the Department of Sociology at the University of Texas at Austin. Prior to his move to UT, he was a lecturer in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology at Hebrew University. Alex will chair our first session today and will introduce our